Life goes and gives you lemons, you LS swap your 65 Impala.
I'm not sure that's the right terminology. We have good old Blake 65 Chevy Impala SS. So a little story on Blake. He reached out to us a long time ago because of my sister's car. And that's how we met Ivan. His dad has the 65 we got running. So I think what happened was is Ivan and Blake were out trying to hit the races or something. And I think they raced each other. And old Blake got a little crazy on this thing and he hurt it. So the thing's running on like 2.5 cylinders, I think, right now, smoking, killing all the mosquitoes. He's been talking about doing an engine swap on this thing for a while, and this just sealed the deal. But not only are we doing an engine, a transmission, gears, we're doing full suspension, coilovers, front and rear, we're doing brakes, doing the full meal deal. Blake went crazy. I guess he got sick of Ivan blowing his doors off. I don't know what's going on with these guys. So we're gonna get started by pulling this engine and tranny out of here. According to the badges, it says 283, but the valve covers that are on there are the 300 horse 327 valve covers, so it might be a 327, but nevertheless, it's hurt. We're not using any of it. Let's get you set up, we'll get this engine and tranny out of here.
The engine and tranny is out of the Impala. The engine has an Edelbrock carburetor and it has the Edelbrock aluminum intake, and they changed out the HDI distributor, but other than that, this is a period correct 283 for what would have been in the 65 Impala back in the day. Nothing special by any means. It's just a worn down old engine. I think the LS that we're gonna put in here is gonna be quadruple the power that this 283 could ever offer. Oh gosh!
Wow! Well, Mr. Funny Man, is this how you get your sick kicks?
What? It's just an ordinary crabby. Oh my goodness!
So here's our pile of parts. We got all the suspension tore apart. So some of the stuff we're gonna use rear end. And you can see on the housing here that it has the other upper arm, the fourth arm bracket on the housing. So GM just put them on all the rear ends. And then depending on your engine is when they would have the fourth arm on it. The kit he has, I'm pretty sure it comes with just the 3 arms. So it's just gonna have the single upper, as this one did originally, because it's a 283 car. So we're probably gonna add the fourth arm to it. All we gotta do is get the bracket for the frame, and then there's shims, so you can shim it so it's in the same position as this, so it's not on a bind up on the pinion angle and the preload and everything. But we're gonna be using this housing, and we're gonna be getting, so the drum brakes are going away, doing disc brakes, and we're re-gearing it and everything. So I'm gonna strip this rear end down. We're gonna get it powder coated. I'll probably take the housing ends like I did on the other 12-bolt truck rear end that we did. We're gonna use a drive line. It's gonna have to get shortened and a new pinion yoke put on it. Watch your toes. Okay. Because we are changing the transmission. So we're gonna keep the drive line for now. We're gonna keep the radius arms for the front end for right now. I'm not sure if the new stuff comes with it. If it doesn't, we'll get these powder coated, but I'll hold on to them. And then I'm gonna hold on to the panhard bar, same deal. I'm not sure if it comes with one, but either way, we'd have to make this adjustable because the ride height is gonna be different and we wanna center up the rear end in there. So we'll hold on to that. So we have this graveyard here, boneyard, whatever you wanna call it, because he wants to keep all the old stuff. We got the engine and all the engine stuff up over there, tranny and all that stuff. He wants to keep all the parts. I took the compressor off of it. This is an R12 system. This thing was completely dry. He's gonna get the AC working down the road, but when he does, we're gonna use the factory bracketry for the drive system that we're gonna be using, which will mount it down low and we'll convert it to a 134. So for right now, we're just gonna not deal with the AC. That thing weighs like 50 pounds. I'm gonna get new hardware, new grade 8 hardware. So took all the bolts out. It comes with new control arms. And it's kind of funny on this lower here, I took this guy out and the bushing just fell out of it. The bushing wasn't even in there. I don't know if somebody tried to change it at some point and didn't press it in all the way. I think it was riding around about like so. And it just fell right out. Then upgrading the exhaust. This exhaust is
Small and a half.
that and some fine craftsmanship, I may add. I took the old fuel line and brake lines out of it. The rear brake line I was taking out.
Rear brake line?
The rear brake line, good old Blake. The rear brake line I was taking out because it just looks really rusty and nasty. And I didn't want to risk splitting a line or anything, you know, gotta be safe. This is a fuel line, same deal. The more I got to the back, it just got nastier and nastier, and I have to change it anyways because it needs to be bigger and it needs to be returned, so it's gonna have a feed and return. I'm gonna hold on to the brake line clips for right at the moment. I'm gonna hold on to these. These are kind of a special bolt. These are for the lower control arms. And then these are where the parking brake cables go to the rear parking brakes on the rear end. These are gonna get reused because the wheelwood brakes that we're using has the little shoe inside the rotor. So we'll get those powder coated. Pretty much all we're using here. We're gonna get new straps. The U-joint on the rear end is gonna stay the same size, but we'll get new U-joint straps. So out of all this stuff / junk, the only thing we're gonna use is the housing and maybe a couple of these parts here. All right, well now that we got the engine and tranny pulled out of the good old 65 Impala here, you're probably wondering what we're gonna put in this thing, even though the title probably says it. But either way, this is what we're gonna put in here. This is what we're gonna be running. Not exactly in this configuration though. So this engine was intended for the 68 C10, and then with everything that happened with all the engines, you have to check that out on the other video.
There's more than one video.
There's a couple to check out, but
Scroll on through.
nevertheless, this was supposed to go into the truck, but it's not. So this long block is going in to Blake's car here, the 65 Impala. So we're gonna be taking off the intake and the drive. The C5 drive is not being used. We're using an F-body drive, and then we're not dealing with the AC for right now, so we won't be doing a compressor. Even though this is a factory AC car, that's down the road. We're not dealing with AC, so we're gonna leave the compressor off.
You just said that.
So just give me a couple seconds. Let's get it done. That was easy.
That was easy.
Forgot the injectors. The injectors are at home still. So we gotta get the injectors. I gotta get the spacer for the back of this idler that holds it centered. We gotta change the dampener. We got the throttle body on it though. It turned out nice. Intake's on it. I gotta clean it up. It's kind of stained. Still gotta change the oil pan, but it's the same exact pan. The only difference is this one here. If you checked out those other videos, you see we have an oil return on it. This can be used in a turbo application. Gotta swap that pan out. We got the same exact one. It's just doesn't have the fitting in it. Gotta get the tranny. The tranny's over yonder in the corner. We gotta dig it out.
And you didn't even say anything about the headers. What are you doing?
Well, they're not headers. I guess they're kind of like a header, more like exhaust manifold. Really nice though. We got some ARP bolts. Just used a factory multi-layer gasket.
You didn't even say what they are.
Got some nice hooker exhaust manifolds here. I like them. They're really tucked in tight, so the exhaust should turn out really trick.
What is this, like 600 horsepower like everybody else says?
Yeah, right. We don't sell any smoke here. This is I think advertised is 425. Well, the heads and cam are off of a Crate engine, 425. The short block is a 11 Cadillac Escalade 6.2. So technically it's a LS3. To the tires, it's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 390 to 400 horsepower on a dyno. So we'll find that out. We don't need to exaggerate. Everything's not 450 plus horsepower. We don't need to make up numbers, but it's way better than the 190 maybe that the 283 made. So we were able to do a little more work on the engine before. I thought we were gonna have to wait till next time, but we had some stuff come in. So we got the injectors put in it, changed the dampener out, got the stock dampener cleaned up. We got the starter on it now, and we got the oil pan changed.
Has it been a few days? You wear a hat.
It's
You look completely different.
I probably do look different. It has been a couple of days,
I
but
don't recognize who you are. You're
yeah,
wearing a hat.
I'm a new guy. I'm like sunglasses and a hat. You don't know who it is, like Superman. I want to get the engine and tranny on the floor, and then get the wiring harness all loomed and everything before I put it in the car. Now we're gonna move on to the front suspension. We're gonna get this thing stopping, steering, and suspensioning. So we're gonna start with assembling the coilovers. Good old Blake, man. He went with the QA1. So we got QA1 double adjust coilovers. Of course, a QA1 spring. The good old Blake, he's the one that supplied the parts. So, I mean, we've done this a million times. So we're just gonna put this guy together here. We're gonna put our NSCs on here, get it lubed up, get it assembled.
12 seconds later.
Come around here. Gotta climb in, all aboard. All aboard. Tighten up our shock here. About like so. And we got a little lock nut. About like so. So the way I like to do this is now that gotta get in here. Now that the shock is holding everything up, the spring is all the way at the bottom of the adjuster. So it's flopping in there. So now I bring the adjuster up to get the spring sitting in the pocket. So I'm gonna spin this adjuster up here and get the spring lined up before you put the control arms on. About like so. So now the spring is located in the pocket up here where it's supposed to be, and everything's snug. So now we're gonna put the upper control arm on it. So here we got our control arm, and once you know it, it's QA1.
Nice.
So you can see the crossbar here is vertical. It needs to be this way. So I used to use a screwdriver or something to come in here and twist it so I can get it lined up on the bolts. And I just come from the bottom, come through the inner fender, and get it on the bolts. Put a little bit of NICs on the bolts. I'm just using the original hardware. Put our nut in our washer. These are kind of nicer because they're tubular. You can get in here with a ratchet with a socket and hold this. Normally they have a knurl on them that keeps it from spinning, but these ones either are worn out or they don't have a knurl anymore. So hold the bolt, tighten it down. Now we got our control arms on. These can be shimmed. So on the 65s, they have an offset cam on the lower control arm. So this goes in the lower control arm, and it's got these cams in it, and it goes into a notch on the frame, and you adjust it to align it. It's good though, it depends on your ride height, just food for thought. If you have it really low, this will be pretty much maxed out on the cam, and it puts a lot of load on the bottom end, on the bottom ball joints in the control arm and the cam here on the bolt. So it's better to put a couple shims in here to bring it in, and it helps aligning it. But I don't think this is gonna be crazy low because this is the wheels he's running, bigger 20-inch wheels. So I don't think you get that low to have a problem. But now we're gonna put the lower control arms in there. So we're gonna use the original bolts. You just have the one bolt, and I normally put the bolt goes in front to rear, and then nuts in the rear, so it goes through. So these control arms, and in case you're wondering, it's QA1.
Nice.
We got our first problem though. These coilovers have a, what do you call it? A little T-bar, and these have just a bolt that goes through that holds the. This is like your radius arm. Normally it bolts to the top of the control arm. Arm is in here like so, and then this is your new radius arm, so this goes to the front. So if you look at it, it looks kind of weird, because you're like, oh, they only mount from one spot. Why does it have this other deal? But they tied together. So this is for your sway bar. So this is your lower mount for your coilover. So they have it set up. These coilovers here are for a stock control arm, which would bolt in place where the shock would be bolted. That's the way these are designed. Conflict of parts here already. Blake's already fired.
Please, no, I cannot be fired. I'm fired.
So we'll just show you the rest of this stuff because we're gonna have to get this straightened out and then come back. So we'll just show you the parts that we're planning on putting on. Pretty sure these are, I can't remember. I think these are CPP spindles. So on top of it being a coilover, these are a drop spindle. We just got them powder coated because they're raw. I mean, the powder coating turned out trick. So we got our drop spindles here. This is a stock steering bracket. So this bolts to your spindle, and then this goes to your outer tie rods. This is what lets you steer. This is the original ones that you reuse, so we got those powder coated.
You didn't have to grind on that like you did with the CPP?
I don't know. It's good. Good question. Haven't got that far yet. That's a great question. We'll have to answer that at a later date. And then of course we got our wheelwood brakes here. I already got the rotors bolted up here to the rotors to the hat, and got them safety wired. And it's kind of funny, good old, and not to bash the Autotopia guy, but Blake got all paranoid after watching the video of the dude crashing the car. So he went hog wild on this here, and he was initially going to get just a wheelwood 4-piston, which I think the rotors are like 12.9 in diameter. But after that, he got a full panic attack, so he went crazy. So we got the 6-piston. I think these rotors are 13 to 13-inch ones, and we got a 6-piston calipers. So yeah, we're gonna stop on a dime and give back change. I just want to throw in a little tidbit on that video. Not to bash the guy, but that car doesn't make 900 horsepower. I don't think your foot glued to the floor, and I guarantee you it doesn't make 900 horsepower, 2,000 RPMs. Just saying. But nevertheless, it was a nice car. But That's why we got the big brakes on this thing. It's a big car. We're gonna overkill the brakes. He wants this thing to stop. So we got the the Willwood hubs. Already got the wheel bearings packed and the seals in it. This dust cap's just on here to keep the outer bearing from getting dirty. We got a ginormous sway bar, which is a, no surprise, QA1.
Nice.
And it changes the style a little bit. Normally the sway bar will go through the frame right here, and then it bolts right here on both sides. So it would go through. So this changes it. It has this bracket here. So this bracket, you gotta massage this frame lip here a little bit on both sides. It's gotta be flat. So this bracket sits flat. So this bracket's going to pretty much sit like about like so in this area, and then this is like a reinforcement, and then the sway bar bolts. So you got two sets of holes here. So two of them go to the frame, and then two of them go to the frame and the sway bar mount. So it adds a rigidity. It adds more strength. That's what we're planning on putting on. Sorry to cut you short. So this is a tranny cooler. We're doing external tranny cooler, and we're gonna mount this guy in here. So the radiator bolts to this. So this is like a spacer deal for the radiator. So anyway, so we're gonna mount the tranny cooler in here, and I'm gonna put it more on the passenger side. And I think I'm gonna have the lines pretty much go straight down because the cooler lines are gonna be on the passenger side. So once I get this mounted up in here, I'm gonna weld in some stuff, and then I'm gonna get this guy powder coated, and then we can get the radiator and stuff in here. So hopefully in between that, we'll get the engine and tranny put in it, because we did get the cross member back. Thing turned out amazing, along with some of the park and brake stuff that goes to the cross member. So we got to make new mounts because the tranny is gonna be further back because we're going to 4L80 over a power glide. So the beginning of the video turned out really, really good. We got some good progress going on, but kind of fell apart at the end, just let you guys down like a cliffhanger. You gotta like, share, subscribe, comment.
Watch the next video.
Oh yeah, watch the next video. I knew there's something.